Shalom, call halal, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bahashim Makakwadash, double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of GMS, including the elders that came before them that taught us his truth. Shalom and salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word of truth and in sincerity, the hopeful elect tabernacle of David. To the Akwat that are listening and learning, being a pillar of rest, the 144,000, the 1/3, the hopeful elect of Israel. I'm the brother Yahshua. I'm back with the WW3 Daily Update. Shalom and salutation to you as well. We're going to start right here at 2nd Ezra 15 and 28. Behold, a horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon the earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. Okay, so this is talking about the Arabs, the Ishmaelites. Okay, also the Carmanians, talking about the Elamites, the Persians in this situation. Want to jump down to 31. And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature, and if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them. Right now, they're not conspiring together. Right now, they're coming back together so that they will conspire. For example, Sunni and Shiite Muslims, right? They are divided. But what they have to do in order to win what's the situation going on in the Middle East right now is there is more power in numbers. And that's what this is saying. And if they shall turn themselves, turn from what? From the separation. If they come back together, conspiring together, that tells you what this means. And if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them. Okay? Not only are the Sunni and the Shiite Arabs going to come back together, but you got different nations that are Muslims as well. You got Sunni and Muslim nations that are not Arab, like the Carmanians. So that gets this number, conspiring together in great power. That number, once that number comes up, what you gonna do? All right, there's too many of them. Anyway, let's watch the news from the other side's perspective. This is from an Arab perspective, the Open-Minded Thinker Show. This isn't your normal Western propaganda. Well, everybody, you got propaganda on both sides, but you got to hear both sides in order to hear a balanced presentation, do you not? Take it away. 7 hours ago. If this was not recorded, nobody would believe it. Let's watch it.
Numerous powerful explosions have recently shaken Tel Aviv's center as a missile barrage from the Palestinian Resistance Army hit multiple military sites in the capital. Eyewitnesses report extensive fires in various military bases and nearby barracks, with missile fragments reaching residential areas. This significant event follows Israel's claim of the defeat of Palestinian freedom fighters in Gaza, a claim now disproven by this bold strike on the capital. It indicates that Israel may face continued conflict before claiming victory. Unfortunately, civilians have borne the brunt of Israeli attacks since October 7th, impacting innocent individuals unaware of the armed struggle. Despite the overwhelming firepower and support from the American military-industrial complex, the Israeli army remains unsuccessful, both diplomatically and on the battlefield. This stands true even with their superior strength. For the understaffed and outgunned Palestinian Defense Army in Gaza, any success holds great significance, given the apparent abandonment by the international community. In light of this, Palestinian freedom fighters have detailed recent battlefield victories against the occupation military, plunging the Gaza Strip, the headquarters of the Palestinian resistance, into an intensified conflict. Abu Ubaidah, spokesman for the Al-Qassam Brigades, the military wing of the Palestinian resistance, stated that they had initiated intense rocket barrages towards Tel Aviv and various locations in the occupied territories. According to Ubeda, the resistance fighters targeted entrenched Zionist forces and vehicles using anti-armor shells and anti-personnel explosives, engaging in close combat that resulted in confirmed enemy casualties and injuries. Ubeda further confirmed the destruction, either complete or partial, of 21 Israeli military vehicles across the Gaza Strip within the past 24 hours. He also mentioned the resistance successfully thwarting an Israeli military attempt to rescue a detained soldier named Sar Baruch. The operation, however, led to casualties, including Baruch's death and injuries among other captives due to Gaza area bombings. Earlier, the Al-Qassam brigades claimed responsibility for the death of Master Sergeant Gal Meir Eisenkot, son of Gadi Eisenkot, a current Israeli war cabinet minister and former chief of staff of the occupying regime. The Palestinian resistance celebrates what they deem as the failure of the Israeli regime to achieve any of its declared battleground objectives, such as destroying the resistance movement, releasing Israeli detainees, or permanently displacing Palestinians from Gaza. They have reiterated their commitment to sustained resistance until the end of the Israeli war and have expressed confidence in withstanding the regime's aggression for an extended period, potentially months. In the context outlined by the statements from the Al-Qassam brigades, the use of force is depicted as a method to resist Israeli occupation and aggression. Abu Ubaidah, the spokesperson, emphasizes successful attacks on Israeli forces and vehicles, showcasing the tangible impact of their resistance efforts. The actions are portrayed as a defense against Israeli incursions and attempts to maintain control over Gaza. However, despite the perceived successes in causing casualties and damage to Israeli forces, the continuation of armed conflict presents inherent challenges. It perpetuates a cycle of violence that has resulted in loss of life and suffering on both sides. The statements reflect a belief in the effectiveness of resistance but also underscore the ongoing toll and human cost of such actions.
Now, right there, I hear a very balanced report. I don't even hear one. It's not very one-sided. All right, pretty much balanced.
The emphasis on thwarting Israeli objectives, including the destruction of the resistance movement and the release of Israeli captives, reveals the entrenched positions of both sides. This entrenched stance prolongs the conflict, making it increasingly difficult to reach a resolution solely through forceful means. In this context, the pursuit of diplomacy emerges as a contrasting approach. While the statements highlight the success of resistance efforts, they also implicitly acknowledge the inability to achieve broader strategic objectives solely through military means. Diplomacy offers an alternative path by providing a platform for dialogue, negotiation, and the possibility of addressing grievances and long-standing issues comprehensively.
Perhaps most unrealistically, this resolution retains a call for an unconditional ceasefire. I explained in my remarks this morning why this is not only unrealistic, but dangerous. It would simply leave Hamas in place, able to regroup and repeat what it did on October 7. Colleagues, a senior Hamas official recently stated the group intends to repeat the vile acts of October 7, quote, again and again and again, unquote. And yet,
the rejection of diplomacy at the Security Council by the United States implies that the American government believes continued fighting will resolve the intractable crisis plaguing the Palestinian situation. This lack of honesty means the resistance will persist in arms to ensure Israel doesn't prevail.
No ceasefire. No end in sight.
The Palestinian resistance movement recently declared that Operation Al-Aqsa Storm is a continuation of a heroic uprising initiated over 3 decades ago, aiming for the full liberation of Palestine and an end to Israeli occupation. On the 36th anniversary of the Stone Intifada, also known as the First Uprising in 1987, the resistance released a statement commemorating the mass rallies and fierce clashes that erupted across Palestinian territories. It was incited by the killing of 4 young Palestinians by Israeli soldiers at a Gaza checkpoint, along with the shooting of a 17-year-old boy during an unarmed protest. The Second Intifada, termed the Al-Aqsa Intifada, commenced in 2000 after former Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon's visit to the Al-Aqsa.
Kind of sounds like what's happening on the streets of America. Trayvon Martin gets shot in the back or whatever, and they protest, and little skirmish starts, and then here come the Gurkhas, right?
Mosque complex. The statement by the resistance describes Operation Al-Aqsa Storm as a great historical epic conducted by Al-Qassam brigades, Hamas military wing, and other Palestinian resistance groups. It underscores the legitimate right of Palestinians to defend themselves, their land, and their sacred sites. It also urges Arab and Muslim nations, as well as global supporters, to maintain solidarity with the besieged Gaza Strip. The call is to organize rallies and demonstrations, condemning Israeli aggression and endorsing the Palestinian cause, affirming their right to freedom and self-determination through the establishment of a Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital. This statement strongly asserts the legitimacy of Palestinian resistance, particularly the armed efforts led by groups like the Al-Qassam brigades. It frames these actions as defensive measures in response to Israeli aggression and occupation, aiming to protect Palestinian rights. Moreover, the appeal for solidarity from Arab and Muslim nations, as well as the global community, continues to seek condemnation of Israeli actions and support for Palestinian freedom.
You hear that? That's them turning themselves and conspiring together. Okay? They're actually doing the groundwork, which nobody is going to hear about. They're actually going through diplomatic channels, right? But they're going to get pushed into a corner, which they have been, and they're not going to take it anymore.
It advocates for establishing a Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital, aiming to mobilize international backing and awareness for Palestinian sovereignty and self-determination. We appreciate your support.
All right, so there is another side, all right? But what do you do? What do you do? And we know who's going to win. Let's just go over that real quick. Then shall the dragons have the upper hand. Okay? Do it again. And why? Why are they going to win? Because there's too many of them. If they come back together, just like Jake. Jake, you are as the sand of the sea. If you come together, which you can't, because your eye is evil towards your brother, well, nobody could take you down. But that's not the way that it's going to be. This is the way it's going to be. 2 Ezra 15:31. Then shall the dragons have the upper hand, meaning they're going to win, remembering their nature of the wild men. And if they shall turn themselves, right, repent, go back to each other, conspiring together in great power to persecute them. That's what you hear them talking about, right? They're doing what is necessary to get themselves out of that bad situation, even if it means, okay, come on, you Sunnis, let's huddle up. We all Arabs, we're all Muslims here. We got to save our own ass, otherwise this cancer is going to grow. So anyway, that's what we're looking at. Okay, we're looking at the end is in sight, right? Then these shall be troubled and keep silence through their power and shall flee. All right, so they're like, oh, it's too many of them. It's too many of them. We got to roll out. All right, so we already know the eventual outcome. And are they gonna, right? Are they gonna stop fighting? Peace and safety. Let's see about peace and safety. Ecclesiastes 3, there's a time for everything under the sun, right? Because the dragons of Arabia are not having it no more. They're not just going to go back and deal with. They're going to deal with it up front. They're going to come together. They're going to do what they don't want to do. Ecclesiastes 3:1, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven, and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. So it's either one or the other. It's not both at the same time. And that ceasefire, that little ceasefire, that been over. What are they doing? Ain't no peace. Ain't no peace fire, ceasefire. They're warring, right? So with that, we hope that the elect were edified. From the other side, you brothers and sisters with that, shalom.